And then when I joined the board of GameStop, I really enjoyed that level of interaction. It's more at the strategic level and working with the senior leadership of the company. But obviously, as you become, one of the senior leaders and the CEO in this case, you're hands-on in the operations of the company, the strategy of the company. And you realize, I certainly realized that, look, as involved as I was as a director, and I was very involved as a director, I could never be as close to the business, to the company, as you would if you were management. And I saw things after I became CEO that, I never saw, never knew, right? Before I went, never appreciated as much, both positive and negative, in the company. And then, of course, when you're in management, then you see a different side of the board, maybe than than when you're on the board.
Right.
It's just those dynamics maybe that are natural due to position or juxtaposition. But it was definitely different.
It seems like, so you say you wanted to push more towards going and embracing the digital future at GameStop. It seems like, anybody looking at the situation over the last 10 years could have said that, but why do you think that's more of a challenge than people appreciate to make that shift and prepare GameStop more for the future?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And look, I take as much blame as anybody. I should have, especially coming from the industry, I should have been a louder voice, pushed even harder in the boardroom for the company to transform itself, to figure out how can it play an even more valuable role in the industry, okay, and while the sand is shifting.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we, as you know, we did do some things. We diversified into telecom retail. We're AT&T's largest independent reseller. I ended up selling that business so that we could focus on the gaming business. But that didn't really address the structural, fundamental issues that the gaming retail business is and was facing. And I should have pushed harder, frankly, in that. And it's how do you remain relevant in this world where more and more of the business is going digital, where companies are having more direct relationships with customers, companies that you're selling product for are disintermediating you. Okay. Now that may just be a reality, but are you just going to keep doing that under the same old terms and conditions, or do you need to come up with a new business model, a new business relationship with these people, especially while you're still relevant and powerful? And I believe GameStop, certainly back then was still very relevant and very powerful, and even today still is relevant and has power. So how are you going to take advantage of the power that you do have today with respect to publishers and hardware vendors and so forth, so that you can be viable and relevant in the future that is coming? And there are things that I think that the company could do.
Do you think, there's the recent example of AMC saying, hey, we're not going to allow Universal films into our theaters anymore if you guys start to release this stuff digitally, and kind of taking that aggressive strong arm stance of, I don't want 1 inch towards digitization or else the relationship's over. You think, is that what it means in your mind, to just be more aggressive with the publishers when you still have some power?
Well, that's nuclear war.
Yeah.
There, right? And sometimes I had a great conversation with people in other industries when I was at GameStop and particularly at AT&T and so forth. And, look, the bottom line is you have to be willing to go dark on people, right? This is why, and we're no different than a Comcast saying, or any cable provider saying, we're not going to carry the we're not going to carry Cinemax unless we get the right deal, right? And it's chicken egg. It's who's going to blink first, because you need the carriage still today.
Yeah.
But you also need the content. So you really do need each other. And I would prefer not to push the button, but rather have constructive dialogue and figure out a way to move forward. But you have to make sure people understand the realities of the situation, which is that, look, GameStop used games business was over $1 billion. Used to be $2 billion. Okay. That's a lot of customers and a lot of currency that can be used online. Right. But we need to remove some of that. Not only do we want to remove the friction of them being able to do that, but also how do we make sure we're compensated, because our margins are different when things are bought in are bought on Xbox Live than they are bought in stores, et cetera. People aren't coming into the stores as often and so forth. I think that that's okay. And the thing about, here's what I'd say about retail. It used to be that people would say that retail's dead, right? Well, retail's not dead. Shitty retail is dead. Okay. And if you look at great retailers today, well, today is hard given the quarantine stuff. But if you look at great retailers today, there are people who are figuring out, the Sephoras of the world, the REIs, the Nikes, the Starbucks, et cetera, who are creating great experiential retail. Well, I believe GameStop could do that too, and become very relevant. But also, I think there was some really great work done with us by a consultant who, really helped us to see something very simplistic. He said, look, if you want to look at, as a public company, if you want to look at valuations, well, look, here's retailers, which is way down here. Here's GameStop, which is below there. And here are companies like Amazon and Netflix and so forth that are valued not just on the basis of their financial fundamentals, but valued in large part because of the network of customers that they have. GameStop has a very large network of customers. You think about PowerUp Pro, PowerUp Rewards in general. How can GameStop figure out a way to monetize that really valuable asset, that network of customers, right? Could we sell memberships? Could we sell subscriptions of some sort? How do we add value to those things? It would have been great to come up with the Amazon Prime for GameStop, right? Imagine you have customers who are paying you $120 a year as opposed to $15 a year to be a PowerUp Reward Pro member. I think that that's actually possible, and that there's value that you can create, not just discounts, but real value too, that you could create and transform the narrative around the company. I think you also have to transform the physical spaces personally, because today they're just too small to really do the kind of experiential retail. I think that would be compelling, but I think that opportunity is there. But you transform the dialogue, the narrative around the company from, hey, it's a transactional business that happens to take place in brick and mortar, very little, not as much online, to, gosh, we have 20 million. 25 million customers, members of our program, who are doing the bulk of the shopping with us, but also paying there's opportunity. I thought that there was opportunity to really push hard on that. And maybe the company still will. I'm not part of it. Yeah.
I mean, so it's just messaging with that community, seeing what they're interested in, what they'd be interested in paying more for. Or is it also a matter of like, we got a lot of data on what these people like to buy and sell here. This seems important.
Yeah, all of that. It's all of that. It's obviously understanding what customers want, but it's a tremendous amount of data, right? What people are buying, how often they're buying. Today, with the right kind of technology, you can understand how often they're coming to your stores and things like that. And this buy sell trade, the buying of product from customers and giving them currency in the form of GameStop currency or actual dollars, it's a very powerful thing, right? It's imagine if you could you really were able to expand that business, because that business is not going away. There will always be people who want to take advantage of being able to monetize what they own. It's a God-given American right, right? To resell what I own. And imagine if you could take that currency then and go to other places and be able to spend that. But the place that you got that currency from was from GameStop. Man, I bet you see a lot more people trading things, right? Because they have that avenue, as opposed to just selling on eBay and things like that, which has some more friction involved with it. So, I think that there's some unique aspects of GameStop's business model that could, potentially be, expanded and be part of its foundation for a new future.
Yeah. There's always a lot of criticism to go around of GameStop online, and some of it's very fair. But then there's an interesting thread that I will always go back to. It was on this messaging board called Recetera, and it just said, hey, you are now the CEO of GameStop. What do you do? And it's like 7 pages of hardcore gamers like, all right, let's try, like, actually, what would I do? And it's distressing that I read through it and I didn't see one good idea. It was just, and it's not, not the quality of the forum. I think it's just a lot of people like, take the golden parachute and get out. Like the best idea is like, I don't know, try to convert it into like a hangout space and then make money somehow. And I'm trying to figure out like how many meetings within GameStop were that exact situation of everyone just sitting around spitballing like, what do we got? What do we got here?
No, I think we had, in the situation that I inherited when I joined, it became very evident to me that, at least from my perspective, that we needed to transform the company and think about a different kind of future. And that's what a lot of our focus was on. And now, if you recall at the time, it was a very interesting time because there was a private equity sale process going on too. So our hands were tied behind our back a little bit because you can't really start initiating large capital projects during a time like that when somebody's looking to buy the company and so forth. And that process unfortunately dragged out much longer than I expected. That's why I ended up being in the job 10 months as opposed to 3 months before we could hire the new CEO. That was a large part of what we talked about, which was what could a new future look like? I mean, Game Informer, there's this incredible media asset that I don't think that the company was taking great advantage of, and could have, again, figured out how does GameStop become much, much more. How does it, the whole could be so much greater than the sum of the parts, in my opinion, but it really was a very sum of the parts type of operation. Look, Game Informer does this. We're just going to leave it alone. It's just going to be this. We're not going to integrate it as much as we could. We could have figured out how to become more and more like a media company too. So all these different aspects of the company, these assets were there, but the business model was not. And so trying to think about what that business model could look like, both with respect to customers as well as the monetization of data, monetization of media assets, things like that. There's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah. I guess you were technically my boss somehow back when I was at Game Informer for a while. I'm trying to piece this together, but it is, I think, a credit to Game Informer that wall is up, and it is seen as such a separate entity. It was always that weird duality of like, we appreciated the distance from GameStop overall. And it's that confusing thing of like, oh, we can make Game Informer more of a media company. I don't really know what that means. It's like Game Informer already is, was and is a media company. So it's always confusing about what exactly that definition is in your mind of what a media company.
It's more GameStop could become more of a media company and leverage the assets and the capabilities of the Game Informer organization much, much better than producing just even making the frequency of the content that was created more frequent, doing things like what you're doing now. I mean, we didn't really, to my knowledge, there wasn't as much of that going on with customers as could have or should have been going on. And certainly then when you think about how do you create a subscription or a membership model, right, where customers look at it and go, there's a lot of value here. And when I'm not just going to wait for my monthly release, I'm going to be able to tap in and listen to Ben whenever I want because he's creating. No, I'm serious, right? But
it's the Game Informer show. It still exists. It's very good.
there's just that value that customers go, oh, it's a no-brainer for $10 a month. Of course I'm gonna do that. Plus I get this discount and preferred shopping, whatever the heck it may be, right? Free shipping. You weave all this stuff in, much like other companies. It's not rocket science. Other companies do this. But you create an opportunity for a different business model, different relationship with customers, and by the way, a closer relationship than I would argue that's not just dependent on your retail locations. And all of a sudden, I think you start to change the minds of people on Wall Street too, right? And say, look, it's not just, this struggling brick and mortar retailer. It's actually this company that has relationships with this many people around the world, and its retail operations are actually an asset, not a liability. And today, people think of brick and mortar retail locations as solely as a liability. Right? And that's, I think, unfortunate.
MinnMax is a Patreon about games, friends, and getting better. The Deepest Dive is the best, most thorough discussions about games on the internet. Prove us wrong, please. The MinnMax Show podcast airs every Thursday. Patreon supporters vote on what we stream every single week, and a whole lot more. Give us a shot, try subscribing to the YouTube channel, and we hope we can win you over.